This is part 3 of the Owl Speaks interview between Neil Bigelow and a self-proclaimed insider allied with at least one of the many factions he describes as those who are working for a new world order. If they succeed at this, all of us, even those who help them achieve this lofty goal of enslaving the entire world population, will be reduced to the lowest level any human being has ever endured. It will be a world which at first is all for them and nothing for us, but soon those who help the top Nazi achieve the status of king of the world will be betrayed, and they will also be enslaved. Maybe some of them are recognizing this, and that's why the factions are fighting. They will have betrayed their own families and all their descendants, because they too will be nothing but dirtbag slaves like us. It's astounding to me that these people think that they can concentrate power and it won't corrupt the head guy, who will be the worst tyrant the world has ever tolerated. He will make Joseph Stalin look like Justin Bieber. Up until now, I have withheld my comments from this reading of The Owl Speaks, but John Massaria and Neil Bigelow told me to take the gloves off on this third segment, and I'm coming out of my corner swinging with the gloves off. So get ready, folks. I'm going to blow your socks off. While reading parts 1 and 2, I have had to bite my lip. This group of madmen have ideas which are inhuman, and fortunately the Owl has made the decision to reveal their intentions to us, and we have his testimony to corroborate what others have revealed about what the slave masters will do to us. They're going to murder almost all of us, unless you people recognize the dire situation and take immediate action, and I'm not talking about violence. You know me, I'm non-violent. Any dictatorship is an unstable, three-legged table. Cops, military, and cooperative sheep who think they are unable to topple the table, but in fact, the people have the numbers and they are quite able. I think we can knock out the legs by reaching the military, the cops, and the sheeple. But it's going to take your efforts, and for the first time in your life, you are asked to participate and not just let your representative represent you because they don't. Look at the mess we are in as a result. This evil group has assumed the role of God. You may go along with worshiping their highest Nazi, but I will never worship any human being as my God. When I look in the mirror, that's my God. That's who acts for me. That's who represents me. The building catches on fire and I use my feet. If the building's on fire, I don't have time to play. Those who like to pray can pray, but I have another way. I say, pray? No way. I want to live to see another day. I'm getting out of the burning building now, so get out of my way. The Nazis want you to worship them? Nobody should worship this kind of human being. One that would exterminate people just because they are inferior in some way. The Owl is inferior too. He doesn't know what a light year is. It's a measure of distance, not time. Any light beer drinker knows that. I don't know about the fluoride heads. They might think it's a measure of time. A light year? Sounds like time to me. The assumption that we have no right to exist is absurd. This is not anyone's right to decide, no matter how powerful their group is. This is a parasitic species who is killing the host. They look down upon us because we are slaves, but it is them who enslaved us. I will read the last segment of this 3-part series, but I will no longer hold back my opinions. The creators of this radio station have given me the authorization to speak out as I feel, and I feel very angry. How about you? If you are not angry about what you have heard so far, then you're not human. Don't worry, you won't be human much longer. This group plans to kill you because you are a dirtbag. Your IQ is not high enough. You didn't pay enough into the socialist insecurity. You don't deserve to live because you aren't a good slave. Does that make you angry? If you have little children, they will be killed because you aren't intelligent enough and you didn't pay the IRS enough. Let's go to Neil and the Owl now and tune in on their dialogue. G2 begins with, "It's been a few weeks since we talked last. How are you?" I hope you have cancer. The owl says, I have been traveling across the continent for business purposes and have now returned somewhat exhausted and behind schedule concerning local responsibilities. I look forward to contributing more to our conversations. What is the purpose of this guy? Is he informing us because he thinks that what they are doing is wrong? This guy was born with a Nazi heart. What does he want? Is he trying to redeem himself? G2 says, you mentioned a while back that when a global collapse comes, most governments, and in particular the American government, will do nothing to help the people. The owl says, correct. The game plan has totally changed. Doing nothing is exactly what they plan to do. The collapse of our civilization is already guaranteed. Life as we know it will be forever changed. Think of it as if you were sabotaging a building knowing that an earthquake was about to hit. Could be a week, could be in a month. You cut the columns halfway through and walk out, then wait. Okay, so is he telling us that an earthquake is coming, or is he just using the earthquake example to tell us that it's a much bigger event? We know they build DOMBs, or deep underground military bases, so they will be safe, but they have decided to leave the dirtbags on the surface to die. What is the event? Planet X? Come on, you can tell us. Is this how most of us are going to die? Does this guy have any mercy on children? He has no heart. How can he live with himself knowing he's putting innocent little children to death? What kind of human being can stand by and watch children dying? Back to the interview. G2 says, how does the occult play into your society, and is it the most important aspect of your religion? The owl says, the occult? Not exactly. The occult was used to diminish the hold of organized religion on the masses. It was Crowley's mission. He was assigned to that task. The most occult-like activities are performed by the high-ranking Masons like the late Albert Pike. The new religion is based on science, not hocus pocus. G2. I have talked to a few of my friends who actually cannot wait for this society to crash so we can start over. I'm sure you feel the same way. Owl says, yes, but you must be careful what you wish for. Many people living lavish lifestyles would find themselves out of place and possibly without a use in the New World paradigm. Oh, there will be those who enjoy every privilege without exerting much effort, but they will not be without responsibilities. School will take an entirely new meaning in the new society. Parents will not be raising their children anymore. No unplanned births will be allowed to occur. A permit will be required long in advance. I have to jump in here, folks. The reason people have children is so that they can enjoy the instinctive pleasure of raising and nurturing little toddlers and watching them grow up and thrive. This is a human need. You're going to take that away from people? Having a family makes life wonderful for many. This guy wants to take that away from the dirtbags? They won't have children. Why should anyone have children if they have to give them up right away? Who needs to go through childbirth? Does this guy understand how heartbreaking that would be? Is he and his entire group of Nazis insane? Taking children away from parents is going too far, and many will fight back. Some of you are probably already clenching your fists and you want to punch somebody. Some of you have guns and you're ready to start killing people. But let me warn you, this is the response they want. They want to kill you, and don't forget that. They provoke you with their crazy ideas, and they hope that you will oppose them so they can put you in a FEMA camp and exterminate you. Now back to the interview. G2 says, I have a hard time believing that there will be no assistance if this economy collapses. All the money spent by FEMA and others for this exact scenario. Owl says, the government will simply disappear, leaving the sheep on the surface to bring the worst parts of the Bible to fruition. The truthers have one thing correct. Some have a first-class ticket, some have coach. Most will never make the flight into the next civilization. The elite know they must retain control to survive. They lose control on the surface during this event, but the outcome is predictable when the sheep are left ungoverned. The elites will be recognized as heroes when they restore order and an acceptable standard of living once again. You and I will assume our roles in that process. New laws will be passed to avoid history repeating. Those laws can be found written in stone on a hillside in Georgia. I must ask, do you fully understand what is to come? To most people, these things are terrifying to contemplate. Now it's my turn to talk. Okay, so he has hinted that those left on the surface will find chaos. That suggests that there is an event which renders the dirtbags on the surface unsafe and those who go down into the underground cities safe. Am I wrong? How do you folks read it? Rewind and play it back and see if you're getting what I'm getting. I think he might be telling us that Planet X is real and that those in the bunkers will survive and we're toast, and those on the coast will see the big wave as it comes to shore. Then, with 90% of us dead, they will start over and be our heroes. For me, the most terrifying future is one in which this group of madmen are in charge and children are raised by the state, not by their natural parents. For me, dying is preferred to living under their rule. I don't know about the listener, but I have already reached a point in which I cannot tolerate the TSA checkpoints, the cameras watching me everywhere I go, and the Social Security number required to open a bank account. My money is mine. It does not belong to the IRS, a private corporation, and it does not belong to the government either. Levying taxes that we have to pay and we don't have a say, this is bullshit. Up until now, they have used force to take this money from us, and this is also unacceptable to me. I think all taxes must be voluntary. If you decide you don't want to fund the CIA because you know they're dealing in drugs, you simply cut off funding to them. When they ask you if you want to pay the tax that pays the salaries of the CIA, you say no, close it down. If there's a war going on and there's a war tax, you say, no, I don't want to support that war, and you stop paying the tax. Those who support the war can pay the tax for that war. And a voluntary tax is the only way to go. Then the people are completely in charge. We have to do away with this representative system. Now we have an interview here where the owl is telling us their plans. What are you going to do now that you know their plans? Are you going to remain idle, sitting on the sideline, watching TV, doing nothing, and let them take your children from you? Let them turn you into 100% slaves? They will take your bank accounts, your gold, your silver, and your retirement accounts, and you have everything to lose by not acting. They'll take everything from you and reduce you to a life of penury and dependence. Now, what are you going to do? Because this movement is about you. It's about what you do. It's not about what the other people do. It's not about what Congress does, and it's not about what God does. It's not about Jesus returning and saving your ass. It's about what you do. Peaceful protest is vitally important. Knock out the legs that support that dictatorship. First the people, then the cops, and the military. Reach these people. When you see any kind of uniform, approach them and say, are you with the people or are you with the Nazis? Smile and wait for the answer. I don't think a cop is going to arrest you for asking him, are you with the people? They all fancy themselves heroes. Go down to the donut shop and ask one, are you with the people or are you with the Nazis? Because if you don't follow the Constitution, you're with the Nazis. You're aiding and abetting the enemy. Knock out the legs of that table, the three-legged unstable table that supports the dictatorship. Get to people, get to cops, and get to the military with a message. Are you with the people or are you with the Nazis? You can record your voice. You can put up a video. You can put up an audio. I will interview you if you want. You write the questions. I'll talk to you more about that later. But get to those who are helping the Nazis and ask them if they understand where all of this leads. You may be surprised to find out some of them are intelligent. They're not all fluoride heads. We have the numbers, people, and you will either stand by and let this terrible thing happen, or you will stand up and start speaking out. We need you. You see a military uniform, run after that guy or lady. Ask him why he's supporting the Nazis. Serving in the military is serving the regime. You know, it can be a very subtle resistance. Remember what happened in Holland under Hitler? They said, okay, you want to take over our country? Okay, you can take over our country. And when the machine needed oil, it didn't get it. And there was no Nazi there to say, oil the machine. And you know what happened to the machine? It broke down. There were millions of acts of sabotage to make the system fail. And Hitler failed in Holland. He failed to convert the people. Passive resistance is powerful. We have the numbers, people, and there are many ways we can resist, and we must. If you approach someone in the military and you ask the disturbing question, are you with the people or are you with the Nazis? I promise you, this idea will reverberate around in his head for the rest of his life. If he is sent to Afghanistan to guard the dope fields or Iraq to murder innocent children and take the oil, he will be thinking about your question. Are you with the people? Are you a hero and with the people? Or are you a traitor to your country and your people and your species and you're helping these Nazis? You must influence each cop as much as you can. Just smile and say, are you with the people or are you with the Nazis? And let the cop think about that. If he's hit 10 times a day with this question, I promise you he will understand eventually, as soon as he digests the donuts and passes gas. He will begin to realize that he is either supporting the Nazis by not following the Constitution to the letter. At some time he's going to wake up and realize he's helping the Nazis by betraying the Constitution and the people. It is not a perk to punch women in the face. It is not your job to arrest people who are protesting in accordance with the Constitution, their right to speak out against the Nazis who took all the money. These guys on Wall Street, Goldman Sachs is number one in my book. The biggest thieves in America are Goldman Sachs, because that is a Nazi organization. When you reach the cops and the soldiers and the people, you knock out the legs which support this awful group of murderers. And if you don't, you have two possible futures. You and all your descendants will be enslaved, and you will soon be dead. They might spare your children because they want to turn them into assassins or sex slaves. And these people are not opposed to turning boys into sex slaves for queer men. So with two possible futures, slavery or freedom, which one is it going to be? Are you going to take action today? Do you want to live as their slave or die in a concentration camp? Speak out. Go down to the donut shop and catch a few cops and ask them the disturbing questions and ask them why they are supporting the Nazis by ignoring the Constitution. Get a group of them and ask them as a group. Get them talking to each other about that person that approached them at the donut shop. How did they know where to find us? It's easy to find cops. Just drive into the donut shop. There's 5 or 6 of them there drinking coffee and eating donuts. I tell you, people, if I had children and someone tried to take them from me, there would be a fight. But I don't have any children that I know of. I don't know how any human being could work for these Nazis and help them separate children from their parents. This is inhuman. Could people really do this to other people? Or is there an alien influence behind this? When all those Nazis go down into the bunkers, when all hell breaks loose up here on the surface, I hope a disease breaks out and wipes them all out. I hope there's a special disease that develops from something underground. I hope radon gas kills them all. This is the best outcome for mankind. The earth belches and radon gas bubbles to the surface, or methane gas fills their chambers, and they all suffocate. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Get rid of all of them at once. Our species has a much better chance of surviving without Nazis. If anyone is a useless eater, it's Henry Kissinger and all the factions which support this Nazi mentality. I'm so angry at this moment, I can hardly read anymore. Let's get back to see what Neil asks next. Neil is G2. G2, once order is restored in this new society, how will they decide on who is worth keeping and who is not? The owl says, you have to start somewhere. So they began with ASVAB scores, SAT, and IQ tests. mechanical aptitude. They also looked into working class Social Security contributions, tax payments, etc. Net worth has little or nothing to do with their statistical process. Think. You have taken some of those tests at some point in your life, haven't you? They know who is worth keeping, but not all who are worth keeping will be kept either. I was lucky to have been born to the right family having productive qualities. Give me a break. Productive qualities? You mean parasitic qualities, don't you? What did you produce? Free energy? You Nazis killed the guy who invented free energy, and when someone else came up with the same idea or a new idea for producing free energy, you killed him too. People brought their brilliant inventions to the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, which you guys control, and what did you guys do? William Lyne, L-Y-N-E, said that you stole his inventions, you passed it off to your friends, and those at the patent office allowed them to see the invention, copy it, and submit their own patent ahead of the real inventor. The book is called Pentagon Aliens, and I wish that one of you would read it for the public so that the people know. Everyone likes to drive and listen to a book being read. Everyone likes to go to sleep hearing a book being read to them. And this book, Pentagon Aliens, is an excellent book. It's written by William Lyne, L-Y-N-E, and he speaks about how he was impoverished by the lawsuits and the government thefts of his work. And now this guy, Owl, is talking about being productive maybe at stealing William Lyne's inventions. I can't believe the audacity of this guy. That you come from a productive family? Tell us how you're going to save us from extinction, invention boy. We're all dying to hear it. Let's go back to the interview. G2 says, you mentioned that you want to write a few articles for my website. What would you like to write about? The Owl says, New World Order for Dummies would be a good introduction. So he wants to sell us on this Nazi idea, this Nazi religion. New World Order for Dummies. How original. Is this part of his productive capacity? He says, later we can elaborate on the intricacies of how the systematic extermination of undesirables and the end of irrational ideas such as freedom of speech, justice, and liberty, and all that irresponsible constitutional jargon, which are earned privileges, not rights. Now let me read that again, because this is the essence of this mentality of this group of Nazis. Later, we can elaborate on the intricacies of how the systematic extermination of the undesirables and the end of irrational ideas such as freedom of speech, justice, and liberty, and all that irresponsible constitutional jargon, which are earned privileges, not rights. And he says, this will finally end the circus known as life. My profile should look something like this. Profile: privately educated, pro-depopulationist, eugenics, anti-democracy. Activists for Planned Parenthood, Green Initiative, Codex. I expect that means Codex Alimentarius. They're going to poison us through the food. And then he has a quote for us. Of course I value life. I value it enough to advocate the elimination of lives without value, so that those worthy of life can inherit something of value to live for. Give me a break. Those worthy of life, like Nazis, who think that they are God and they can decide who is eliminated? We are all going through the several layers or steps or levels of existence, and we start out very low, and we have to learn. And the wisest people are the oldest souls, and they've been through this cycle many times. And they care about animals and wildlife and people, all people, and they want to help each one of them advance and develop spiritually. I'm not religious. I am spiritual. I am moralistic. I have values. But I don't want people pushing Jesus on me. And I wouldn't give 1 penny to the Catholic Church, because they are organized crime syndicate. They cover up the crimes committed by priests. To me, that's organized crime, and they should all be closed down. All of the Catholic churches should be closed down. Now, if you support organized crime and child molestation, then go ahead and give money to your Catholic church. But I think you should talk to the priest and tell him, I don't like this child molestation. I don't like the cover-ups. I don't like when government commits crimes against the people and covers it up, and I'm not giving you 1 cent. And not only am I not going to give you 1 cent, I'm going to encourage everyone around me not to give you 1 cent until you guys clean up your act. Stop the child molestation. Now, who has a right to live? Everyone does. We are all developing. I don't know why or how it all works, but I've read about it. The aliens told us a lot, and they know. They have, some of them, billions of years more time in this universe than we do. And they have never found God. They found creation. And when they talk to us about God, they're talking about creation, but they think that our concept of God is wrong. And I agree. Because I never heard of God saving anyone in a burning building. And when you put it in God's hands, you're really failing to carry out the things that you're supposed to do to save yourself when the building is on fire. And the building is on fire right now in this country. And every one of us has to move our feet and get out of the burning building. You're not going to be able to leave the country because they blocked that. They made the passport so difficult you can't get out. So you're going to have to do something. And peaceful protest is what I advocate. It is wrong to kill people. It is wrong, period. There is no discussion. It is wrong, period. I don't like war, and I want to end wars. And it's up to you people. Everyone has a right to live. Nobody has a right to invade a sovereign country and kill their people and steal their oil. Those people have a right to live, and if you kill them, this goes on your record. We are temporarily physical bodies. We are eternally spiritual creatures, and I'm not religious, and you know I'm not religious. I block religious people. They push Jesus, they're gone. I won't allow them on my website, my channel. But everybody who is developing has to begin somewhere, and they have to make the mistakes and learn and develop spiritually so that they have a morality eventually. So they have some love for the other creatures in the universe. When I see people shooting rabbits for target practice, I think it's inhuman. They're low life. They're on a low level of development. And this assumption that the owl knows best, or that his group has all the answers, this is foolishness. This is folly. Creation has the big plan, not the Nazis. He's going to set aside creation's plan and set up his own plan? He will be eliminated from the entire species because creation has more power than all of these Nazis put together. And so do we, the people. We have more power than all of these Nazis. We have them outnumbered. If we could just knock out the legs, one of the legs, get cops to stop violating the Constitution, that would be a step in the right direction. Get the military to stop fighting their wars. Get the SWAT teams to understand that they should not go out and kill someone. It's not a sport. It's not a game. It's a deadly act which takes out a human life, and it's wrong. The enemies of the Nazis are not the enemies of the SWAT team, and they should not do the killing for the Nazis. And we must reach the SWAT teams to make sure they understand this. I want to hear oath keepers. They say, we will not arrest Americans. We will not seize gold. We will not violate the Constitution. And these are very brave Americans because they will be the first in the death camps. You will smell the stench of their dead bodies from miles away. We all have to be oath keepers. We all have to put up the resistance. And this assumption that they know best is ludicrous. This handful of evil people have gained control. They sold their souls to the devil, you might say, and they gained money, and they used the money to buy power and control, and they used the power and the control to get more money. They own now 63% of all major corporations. They have taken over General Motors. And we have to turn this around. And speaking out is the only way. We must eliminate the Nazis from the population. The best way to do that is to spread the truth and get everyone to oppose them, because they're like cockroaches. As soon as they know that they are outnumbered and they're losing power, they will disappear into the woodwork. They will run into the cracks between the floors. The audacity of anyone who thinks that they are more powerful than the most powerful force in the universe, creation. That which created us, to develop up this ladder, which has at least 11 levels. The aliens told us about it. They told us our religion is not correct. There is no God, but there is a creator, and it's not a man or woman, and it doesn't walk on two legs. It's just creation, that's all. Now that's a religious concept I can accept, but they don't consider that religious. They consider that fact. They consider that science. The aliens told us that our beliefs are wrong, and we have been given religion and rules to control us and make us slaves to those we make contributions to. Well, I think that religion and government are two forms of the same thing, which is a slave master, and I reject both. Nobody governs the internet. Everybody governs the internet. Everybody writes the programs to stop the spam. Everyone is running the internet, and we can do the same thing with government. Get rid of all governors because they're all corrupt. Get rid of all presidents. Get rid of all dictators. They're all corrupt. Don't allow anyone to lead you, because they lead you astray. They lead you to war so that they can have more. I have the right to live, and I don't like any government controlling me. I don't like any government touching me and taking children away from parents, and I don't like governments that kill us. And if what Obama has done with the executive orders, granting himself powers that are unconstitutional, like killing people, denying them due process of law, then we have to get rid of this role of president, because it's no longer serving the people. Make your own videos, record your own recordings, and put them out there for the world to hear and see. On YouTube, all you need is an audio recording and one picture. Windows Movie Maker, Audacity software for the audio, and you're in business. Google Images will provide you with pictures. Change pictures as often as you need to, because we have a government now that is corrupt. Nazis are behind them, and they have enormous power, but we have at least 1,000,000 times more power, but only if we act and stop depending on representatives. Stop thinking that it's in God's hands, because God will not save you from a burning building or a flood or an earthquake. This is not the role of a fictitious character, a character that was invented by man. And they're going to kill us because we aren't as smart as they are, or as tall as they are, or because we haven't paid in enough to the IRS mafia. Either we are sheep and we deserve to be killed, or we are gods and we make it happen. If a society is made of strong people, they will survive. And if you push that society in this direction that the Nazis are trying to push us, they're going to meet powerful resistance. And these Nazis will be lucky if they survive, because the masses are angry, like I am, and the Nazis are in deep trouble. Let's go back to the interview. We have the numbers, and don't forget it, but we must act. G2 says, the pictures you showed me look nothing like the FEMA camps that the conspiracy theorists talk about. They look like they are in extremely rural areas such as Montana, South Dakota, Idaho, and Colorado. And the owl says, clever man, these are not for green ticket holders. Notice the meditation rooms, the conference rooms. Re-education and education will take place there in an environment more likely to open one's mind without the stress of institutional captivity. Although it is captivity nonetheless, under the guise of protection, of course, the quarries will be chosen in states like the ones you mentioned. They will be chosen according to how easily they are to defend. That's a bad sentence. They will be chosen according to how easy they are to defend and isolate those inhabiting them. Minefields and a limited presence of military personnel should make up these temporary sanctuaries easy to secure. Have you seen the new map of America? These will be popping up all over the no human presence zones. Okay, I want to put in something here. If I was told by these Nazis that I was selected to survive and serve the Nazis, you know what I'd say to them? I'd rather be dead than serve Nazis or live in a Nazi regime. Put me on your extermination list now. I will never serve Nazis. Neil then asks, why would they waste money on building such elaborate prisons if their intentions are to eliminate the majority of the population? The owl says, money? These are not what you think. These are a FEMA-sponsored program. Did you really think that those selected for re-education will be imprisoned in some concentration camp? The camps are a staging and a sorting area. These are retreats for selected individuals. Remember when I suggested to you that you had a place in the new paradigm, as I did, not as elites. We can never expect to be that. We will have different roles on a regional level. And G2 asks, how will you distinguish between the rich, middle class, and poor? And the owl says, it will make little difference. They will all be sorted before, during, and some after relocation. However, once relocated, re-education and reintroduction to normal society will be a privilege and must be earned. Earn this, you fucking Nazi! I will not cooperate with your bullshit. And all of you deserve to die, and we have the numbers. We can overwhelm you. And many of those in your ranks do not agree with your extreme ideas. They will defect. If they carry arms, they will turn their arms on you, and a handful of you will be wiped out. They will reveal who is in your club, and you will be imprisoned for life without the possibility of parole for conspiring to commit genocide on us. Now back to the interview. G2 asks, how will they kick off this collapse? With a natural disaster? And the owl says, natural? Disasters are not always natural, are they? As for uniting the world with a natural disaster, I do not think it is feasible unless we are speaking of a solar storm or asteroid. Interesting that you mention extraterrestrial visit or mock visit. Ronald Reagan set the stage for such an event in a most famous speech of his. His successor, GHWB, the stupid one, announced a new world order shortly after Canadian officials had made public statements about aliens and NATO engaging in provocations of one another. Imagine the announcement that aliens could be among us and our possible threat accompanied by some evidence of their existence. Everyone lines up for their RFID chip. Not me, buddy. Once a city is under attack, they run for the shelters and follow the direction of military personnel without question or hesitation. But I'm more of a realist. Economic meltdown will cause a total erosion of law enforcement. Martial law will be declared. The sheep will run for cover in the direction of the only sanctuary available to them, FEMA. And that is the end of the interview and the end of part 3. And I shall have the last say. Well, isn't it funny that he should bring up aliens at the end of this third segment? Do you, the listener, know who Phil Schneider was? He was a geologist who was working for the government. You've heard about DOMBs. Well, Phil Schneider built them. He was earning $500,000 a year, and he gave his testimony on YouTube. So if you want to know more, just type in his name and turn on the lights about his role. Philip Schneider was drilling a hole for a DOMB, I think it was in Dulce, New Mexico, and he was not told that aliens were down there. The drill bit kept breaking, and so he went down to see what the problem was. I think the hole was about 2 miles deep. He was lowered into the hole, and for some reason, he carried a gun. He gets to the bottom of the hole, and there's a huge underground cavern full of aliens. I think he panicked and pulled out his weapon and smoked 2 aliens. I did a video about this, and if you search my channel Back to Constitution, you can have more detail about the fight. Well, the aliens didn't like seeing 2 of their beer-drinking buddies wasted, and so one of them put his hand over his stomach and fired an advanced weapon at Phil, taking off fingers and toes and opening him up like a fish, as he put it. One brave Green Beret or Special Forces type down there put what was left of Phil Schneider into a basket and sent him up. And Phil survived, but that brave soldier did not. About 68 Green Beret died in that skirmish down there, and Phil survived to tell us why he quit his $500,000 a year job as a geologist drilling holes for DOMBs. He said that 40 of his co-workers quit on the same day. Apparently, they were invited to the United Nations, and I think there were 7 tall grays, and Phil said they were calling all the shots at the UN. So if you guys want to know who's really behind this genocide, it just might be aliens. I don't know if it's the tall grays. Phil and his 40 buddies quit because they said the tall grays were calling all the shots. He didn't give any other information, and I would sure like to ask some questions, but it's too late. Phil Schneider was murdered. It was obviously a murder. Nobody ties piano wire around his own neck and commits suicide, and Phil had plans. You can dig into his story and learn a whole lot about it, but he was murdered. Now, aliens calling shots at the UN is unacceptable to me, and that would explain the great skill in organizing our society so that we don't have nutrition in our food, and so that we do have fluoride rat poison in our drinking water. Congress is totally under control. They're all traitors, and they have all betrayed the people and the country and the species. Obama is a traitor. 900 executive orders granting himself powers as puppet president and betraying our species, our country, and we are in deep doo-doo, folks. We don't have time and we don't have a choice. We have the numbers and they have the technology. But I don't think they can win unless our people cooperate. And it's time to reach the people, the cops, and the military, the 3 legs that hold up this flimsy dictatorship. Knock those legs out from under it in a peaceful way by persuasion, because if you don't, they're going to kill you, and that'll be the end of your protest. The litmus test for the promotion in the military today is, will you kill Americans? Obama works for the aliens because he's an alien, an illegal alien. Obama works for the aliens if indeed the tall grays are calling the shots at the UN. Now they got the whole world organized under UN, and now the UN decides if the United States goes to war. This is bullshit. Hillary Clinton was very effective in serving the aliens. She betrayed her own species. She betrayed her own country. We must reach those in the highest places and begin by reaching those in the lowest places, the common man. Put up your videos. Record your voice. Speak out about this. Find articles to read. The Libertarian News is a great source. The Activist Post is a great source. Novedades Semanales is a great source. Dig up all of these stories and put them out there. We need your help. There's a war going on, and we're going to lose unless everyone acts. Everyone. Stop watching football games and start recording your voice. We must win this one. Our life depends on it. Our species depends on it. If the people knew the truth, the people would realize that this Monsanto genetic manipulation and the Center for Disease Control conspiracy is all part of an alien agenda to wipe us out. Neil told me on the phone today that he had conversations with the owl about aliens and some things he could not say. I will close with this thought. Speak openly about aliens and tell the world about why Phil Schneider and 40 of his co-workers all quit the same day. Spread the truth. There are many things you can do, and I'm going to list some of them. You can talk to military when you see them. That's one. You can talk to cops. Buy them a donut and buy some time at the donut shop. First question should be, are you with the people or the Nazis? If they say Nazis, you say, bad cop, no donut. Bad cop, no donut. Bad cop. Number 3, write down your thoughts about how the Nazis are taking over everything and record your voice. Number 4, If you're good at writing, write an interview where someone is asking the questions that you would like to answer, and record both the questions and the answers and send it to me. And I'll take out your voice where you're asking yourself the questions, and I'll put in my voice asking you the questions. And then we can do a quasi-interview where I'm interviewing you. And we'll put that on the show if it passes approval with John Massaria and Neil Bigelow. Number 5, read articles from the Activist Post, the Libertarian News, and Novedades Semanales. You will never run out of good articles, which help us replace the media in protecting the people and informing them. The reality that is being contrived by the socialist state and the state-controlled media is unacceptable. And we don't need propaganda. We have the numbers, and we can put out much more content than all of their propaganda stations combined. Much more. If just 10,000 of us put out one video a week, that's 10,000 new videos every week. We could really permeate YouTube with good quality videos speaking out about this alien invasion, these Nazis who are trying to take over, these Nazis who are under mind control. Number 6, never say president without saying puppet president. We want everyone to understand that he is there by appointment and the election was rigged. He is a puppet dictator. Never say leaders without saying so-called leaders. Never say that Obama was elected. Say he was appointed. The election was rigged. The people wanted a constitutional candidate, not a Nazi. We were robbed of our favorite candidate. Our president today should be Dr. Ron Paul, not this disbarred attorney who has no valid birth certificate, and those who defend him are unpatriotic traitors to this once great country. Number 7, things you can do. Don't get violent. This is what they need to declare martial law. Peaceful protest is better. When you are touched by the TSA, come home and tell your story. Record it. Your testimony is very moving to the rest of the dirtbags. And if you just tell your story, you will move more people than trying to tell someone else's story. The resistance movement needs your testimony. It's powerful to hear another human being speak about their experience with the TSA and all the other Nazi things. Number 8, stop funding your church, because your church cooperates with the slavery, and if you are a Catholic, you're supporting pervert priests. There is no God, and if you believe this lie, then you will expect God to rescue you, and there is not going to be any rescue from God. The Nazis want you to believe the Bible because it says there's going to be a rapture. Baloney. The Nazis would like you to believe that God or the aliens are going to rescue you so that you do nothing and you leave it up to God, or you leave it up to the aliens and their advanced technology. It ain't going to happen. They have you guys saying Namaste and talking about Nasara funds. This is nonsense. Ascension means death. That's all it means. You're going to lose your physical body because they are going to kill you. That's the truth. There was no fund created by the Count Saint Germain. He was a con man, and that's why they chose him to be your savior and pass out free money. They want to con you, and they're all laughing because so many people fell for this baloney. The Count Saint Germain conned many people when he was alive. He has died and reincarnated in Germany. I think it was Samyasi that told Billy Meyer that his current life is just as much a waste as his last one. So don't count on the Count. He is a no-account loser. And if you believe in him, you're going to lose your life waiting for the aliens to rescue you. The building is on fire. Get out of the burning building. Aliens tend to stay out of our issues, and they let us work them out ourselves. We have the numbers. We can solve this. It is not in God's hands. So if you're in a burning building, you're going to burn up. If you waste time praying, get out of the burning building, and then you might have some time to waste later. You can pray. Those who stay in the building and pray always burn up in the fire. Take action, because nobody is going to save you, and it's time for you to save yourself. Like Blake Sawyer said in an interview on Coast to Coast with George Knapp, he said in Nazi Germany, for each person who left, 21 stayed behind and died. Now when the Nazis take over, you must resist early and stop them, because they always have so much power after they get control of everything. But we can undermine them and knock the legs out from under the table by getting the soldiers to stop fighting their wars, the people to stop cooperating at all of the garbage things that they do to us, and get the cops to understand that they're either on the side of the people and constitutional law, or they're going to bring us all to slavery. When cops understand that, they might start thinking that the Constitution is a sacred document, and it needs to remain, that it's not cool to violate the Constitution. Please see the handwriting on the wall and get out of the burning building. Now, if you think you can leave the country, let me tell you this. The passport is now so complicated that it's impossible, some people say, to fill one out. That's to prevent you from escaping the genocide. Because in Nazi Germany, a lot of them got away. And they don't want that to happen this time. They want to exterminate the undesirables, and they're planning to do it very soon. Now, Blake Sawyer has a passport, and it's pretty easy for him to get out. Everyone should get out while they can, but where are you going to go to? These people will dominate the entire earth. That's why it's so important that the people find out what's going on, and the only way they can do that is if you guys spread the news. If you try to get out of the country, they will find ways to detain you and prevent you from leaving. And I'm thinking maybe that's better, because a cornered mouse will fight ferociously even if it's a big cat, because if he doesn't, he's dead meat. Thanks for listening. We'll have more shows for you in the near future.